welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, thanks for tuning in. Today we're going to be continuing the restoration on this 1983 Yamaha IT 175. I've got the foot pegs back on, put new springs in there, painted the foot pegs. Kickstand is on. If you watch the fork video, you'll see how I rebuilt those forks. But to get the bike back up so I can put the engine in it, I'm going to have to do this front wheel. As you can see, it's completely dry rotted. It's no good for anything. Probably the original tire. So I'm going to be getting that off. I did buy a spoke set for it and a set of rims off of eBay. These spokes are made by the same guy that does the seat covers, Pit Replica, on eBay. There's same length ones on the non-brake side. The brake side, there's two different ones. There's a different bend. One that goes over top has got the steeper bend. So I guess first things first, we'll get that tire off. I'll probably cover a lot of stuff in this video and get assembling this. So we got the tire off. The rim's not in that bad a shape, but all the spokes are seized. You can't turn them anymore. I'm not going to bother trying to save any of this. The only thing I really care about is the hub. I'm going to end up cutting these spokes out. I may hang on to this rim. It does have a few scratches. It's just not cost effective to get it re-anodized, because you'd have to find somebody that could polish all that out perfect. But yeah, we're just going to hit it with the wheel of death here. Make quick work of it. So yeah, we're down to the bare hub. I forgot to mention in the last clip, I did take a whole bunch of pictures on both sides, how the spokes were laced into the rim, because it can get confusing when you put it back together when you got three different length spokes. So I just would recommend that you take a lot of pictures before you cut the hub out. Anyway, I'm going to get this all cleaned up. There's a bit of oil in there. Get all this dirt off, and then I'll prime it and paint it. Just prepping this for paint. I put new brake shoes on first because there's a big chance you could chip your paint later. So it's no big deal. You just got to mask it off. This is the inside of the hub. Nobody's ever going to see it anyway. So as the same on the frame, I'm just using the same 3-in-1 black primer. I'm just getting ready to paint this hub. I've got all the important spots masked off. And I'm using, like I did on the engine cases, Duplicolor engine enamel, gloss black. So this is what drives the odometer. It sits on the outside of the hub against the fork leg. When I took it apart, nothing was working. It was all full of rust and gunk and seized up. I was able to pull this snap ring and this ring with these tabs, and then to kind of take the big gear out and clean it up. It took me a while, and then I realized that this three-pronged washer that actually drives the gear, there's a flat spot on it, and the flat spot had stripped out, like it obviously the cable had piled up or something. That could be a safety mechanism Yamaha designed. So I was able to pound that big washer with the three slots on it back into shape, and now it is driving the gears. I packed it full of grease, so I'm just going to go ahead and give it a little paint job. Okay, we're back. We got the new tire on, new rim, new spokes, new speedo cable. Speedo's working properly now. New rim lock, new tube. I got a new Dunlop 952 tire on there, matching one for the back when we get there. One thing I forgot to mention before I took the wheel apart is I didn't measure the offset. So when I put the rim back on the first time, it was off center between the fork legs, so I had to loosen all the spokes and then reach through it. So don't forget to do that. Maybe go over that a little bit when I do the rear wheel. Front brake is all working correctly now. New cable, new guides, new perches and levers. I did get the odometer mounted back up. The knob is all working nice now. And the kill switch is in. I've got some of the wiring back in. But I think now it's time to get on with putting that engine in. So let's get going with that. Okay, just getting ready to put this engine in. One thing I should point out, there's a little washer on this bottom motor mount that fits on this side. I don't know why Yamaha has one there and they don't have one here. Anyways, I didn't quite know where it went until I looked in the parts book, but that should be there. I'm just going to leave this loose for now till I get the swing arm in. Just getting ready to put the swing arm back in. Don't forget this piece. And I've got the bolt greased up. That sure went together a lot easier than it came apart. Okay, we're getting ready to assemble the piston and cylinder. One thing you should always do is check your ring end gap. So you just use the piston to push the ring in the bore. That way you know it's square. And the spec in the manual is 8 to 12 thou. So you want to take your feeler gauge. Tenth thou fits no problem. 12 thou is getting tight, so we know the gap is right as long as it's between 8 and 14. So we'll do that on both rings. Okay, I bought this piston and ring kit. It's TKRJ. It says made in Japan. I bought it off of eBay in England. But the one thing I noticed is the two rings are different sizes. One's wider than the other, and there's this little expander. So the expander is going to go under the more narrow ring, but I couldn't find any instructions on the internet about it. I did finally, after about 20 minutes of searching, find an old forum where the guys were talking about it, and they suggested that the expander and the more narrow ring go on the bottom groove. So your kit may be different, but the ring would go, the big ring would go in both slots, so they don't exactly make it obvious. So anyways, whatever your kit is, make sure you follow the directions. The original Yamaha piston, both rings were the same. Could be hard to see. On the ends of the rings, it's got a little chamfer. And if you look on the piston, there's a pin in the groove. So basically you want the lettering up so that the ring is going to engage with that little pin when it's all in the cylinder, and the point of that is to stop the ring from moving. Otherwise it could catch a port in there and then you're back into a C situation. So we'll go ahead and put this on the bike. Okay, I've got a rag shoved in the case so nothing can fall in there. At some point I got to put this little circlip in after the wrist pin goes in. I've already installed the circlip on the other side, so there's only one I have to do on the engine. So I'm going to take a bit of two-stroke oil up that bearing good, and then you want your arrow on the piston facing towards the exhaust. sure that's seated. Now these circlips can be a real bear to get in, but the important point to note is that when you're done, you want the ends of the circlip at either 12 o'clock or at 6 o'clock, because if you have it like that, there's they've been known to wing out under high RPM, and then you seize your cylinder. Okay, we've got a new base gasket on there. Make sure both your dowels are still there. Make sure both mating surfaces are clean. We're going to take and put a little two-stroke oil on the piston and the rings. Make sure your ring end gaps are on those pins. And then we're also going to coat the inside of the cylinder with some two-stroke oil. Big thing to remember is to try and not wreck your rings, as long as you don't move them too much. I don't know how they do those big 4-cylinder bikes. This is hard enough on its own. I am not having much fun with this guy, I can tell you. There we go. Whew. Well, I didn't have much fun there. All I'm going to advise you to do is take your time. Don't bend a ring. Okay, so I'm just kicking it over slowly to make sure everything still spins nice, and it's a good opportunity to see if I've got spark, because when I bought this bike it was seized, and yes, we got a nice bright blue spark, so that's good news. Alright, we'll move on to putting on the head. So this only goes on one way. There's a flat edge, goes to the back. That's the only way this gasket fits on. Even then it's pretty tight, but I should be able to get it. And then we'll install the new nuts and tighten down in a crisscross pattern. Let's put the spark plug in for now. I gotta go back and read my manual on a computer for the torque, but make sure your torque goes to spec. I also put a little grease on the threads of the spark plug, but I'm just going to check what we got for compression. Oh yeah, we got all kinds of compression now. We've got the cylinder back on. We got lots of compression. Bike is coming along. The next logical step for me was going to be to put the new carb kit in, but I took the bowl off and it's just tar. It's absolutely plugged. Like even the fuel inlet port is completely plugged with tar. So I'm going to have to go read my manual, decide how it comes apart, and I'm hoping Varsol will break that stuff loose. If not, I'm going to have to get some commercial carb cleaner, I guess. But that's what happens when a bike seizes up and then sits for 30 years. Anyway, that's going to do it. I want to thank you for tuning in. We'll see you next time.